Hey y'all, on today's episode, we have my friend Brittany Hong. She is the Chief of Marketing and co-founder of Encyrcle. She's also a woman in long-term recovery. We talk about how she got sober. We talk about her starting a business, being sober, and how that impacts the way she does business. The hardships she's been through in recovery, and also the amazing gifts that come along with it. So tune in. Welcome to Impacting Recovery Uncensored. I'm your host, Sarah Pritchard. This is a podcast where we dive deep into the real, uncensored truths about addiction, recovery, and everything in between. No sugarcoating, no judgment, just honest conversations that can help lift up the solution. So let's get started. Today we have Brittany Hong. She is the co-founder and chief of marketing at Encyrcle. How are you?
Sarah, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a privilege, truly.
Yes. And I'm so glad you made it. So for context, Brittany is a trooper and took a red eye, and then connecting flights were delayed and all sorts of fun stuff. And so we changed the time and everything. And I'm just like, if it were me, I would have been like, I'm just flying home and we'll have to do this another time.
No way I was going to miss it. I'm really glad that I was able to make it. So thank you.
Yes. And Brittany and I, we met at Onsite. We were doing a women's leadership retreat. For those that don't know, Onsite, they do workshops and intensives for intense therapy, essentially. And so that's where we met. We were roommates.
Yes, roomies.
Yes.
I'm excited for next year.
I know, me too.
Yeah, it was so good. If you haven't been, can't recommend it enough. It was amazing.
It really was.
Yeah.
So briefly, tell us just a little bit about, who you are, recovery, entrepreneur, mom, all the things. And of course, we're going to go into all that, but who is Brittany?
Yeah, all the things. It's amazing to hear those things about myself, because 12 years ago, none of those things, I wasn't doing any of them well.
Yeah.
I was a mom then. I had my daughters young and I was working and doing things, but I couldn't do any of those things well.
Yes.
So it's really amazing to be here, 12 years later after finding recovery and being proud of the person that I am and getting to do those things well and successfully. So yeah, it's just cool to hear.
Oh, so what did your life look like before recovery?
Yeah, so I grew up in a family where alcoholism and mental health, addiction, abuse, those things were prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
And so alcoholism, it wasn't a pretty picture in my home. I ended up, my mom and my two sisters and I left and moved out when I was little. And it just was like a tough environment growing up.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, was struggling with mental health issues. My dad was struggling with his alcoholism. So I just had like a really tough childhood.
Yeah.
I always swore I would never drink. Like I said, it wasn't a pretty picture in our home. But then, later on I did. And I thought that's what everybody did, right? Like that's just what you do when you're in high school,
right.
Or, that's what everybody's doing. And so by the time I was 18, I was, full-blown alcoholic, drinking alcoholically. And then I went and found recovery for, another decade.
Yeah. And so when you started drinking, because you were like, I'll never drink, or you obviously experienced alcoholism or seeing it in other people, your father. So describe what happened when you drank for the first time, or when there was like a real effect produced.
Yeah. So like I said, I was never going to drink.
Yeah.
And when I was probably in middle school, I was at my dad's house for the weekend. And for some reason, I'm not sure why, I knew that he had these airplane bottles in his center console of his car. But I do remember that they were Goldschlager. And I got this, Goldschlager, middle of summer. I got this bright idea that I would just go try one, you know, and see what it was all about. And so I went out to his car and I drank the first one. And obviously was like, this is awful. Again, it was hot Goldschlager. I had the first one and then I was like, oh. And so then I went to walk back in the house. And as soon as I got to the front door, I had this thought, that was like, but there's 2 more. And I turned around and drank the rest of them. And now being in recovery and having language for that, I understand that from the first time I drank, I was drinking alcoholically. I didn't even like it, but I was going to drink everything that was there.
Right.
And that's how I would drink for the rest of my drinking career. I would either drink till it was gone or I was gone. But what was so interesting is I didn't drink again. You know, my household, like I said, was chaotic, but my mom was a good mom. And, you know, she kept the reins pretty tight. So I didn't get a lot of opportunities to drink, but I took every opportunity that I had to drink. And I didn't drink all the time. Like I said, I didn't really have access, but on the weekends or when we could go to a friend's house or whatever, I was blackout drinking.
Yes.
But again, I didn't think I had a problem because I didn't have the language yet.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that's just what people do. And I'm not drinking every day. So what's the big deal? I'm just like, I'm fun. I'm a party girl.
Yeah. No, I had the same experience. And it sounds like we probably went to similar high schools, even though I was in Georgia and you were in Tennessee. But yes, I was just like, this is what you do. You go and party and you drink too much, and that's what everybody else is doing. So it's fine.
Yeah, and it was important for me because, like I said, my childhood was tough. And when my parents split, I was in a different school in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And so my home life, there wasn't a lot of support there. And then at school, I was struggling to make friends.
Yeah.
And so I was just kind of like the loner kid at all of these schools. I was like the new kid, the fat kid, the poor kid, the weird kid. I didn't do myself a lot of favors. I remember I had this like bowl cut with like a rat tail. So I wasn't really doing myself a lot of favors, but I'm probably dating myself by saying that. But anyways, I just didn't have a lot of friends and I was just struggling, you know. And so once I got settled into middle school and then into high school, I finally had friends. I was popular. And that's just what I thought that you did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so what pushed you to recognize that you were an alcoholic, or what happened?
Oh, my goodness. So I went away to school. I went about 2 hours from home. So that kind of gave me the ability to drink the way I wanted to, which resulted in me promptly felling out my first year. I came back home, went to community college, started working, and it was interesting. I went to a doctor because, you know, things were crazy. And so I'm like, well, clearly I'm mentally ill.
Right.
And I need some medication. And so I went to this doctor, and for some reason, you know how they give you the intake form and it's like, you know, how much do you drink? How much do you smoke? For whatever reason, I was a little bit honest. And I'm like, okay, I had like 5 Jaeger bombs last night and this and that. And I remember the doctor, she was like, you had that last night? It was Tuesday. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I really think that you're an alcoholic.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, Dr. Chisholm, you just don't understand. I'm a good Southern girl. And if somebody's going to buy me a drink, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And so I just couldn't connect the dots. Again, I'm still just like, I'm fun and I'm young and this is what people do. Right. And, you know, I just drink like the boys, or I'm just a party girl. Like I had a lot of language for it that wasn't alcoholism.
Yes.
And so I remember being so frustrated by this because she was my parents still carry my insurance. And so she's sending these letters to my parents' house, like, you need a psych eval, like you're an alcoholic. We're going to discharge you from like the entire medical practice if you don't get the psych eval. And when I was at that appointment, she told me, she was like, I'm really worried. She goes, I'm worried that you're going to get in a car accident or go to jail or have, you know, an unplanned pregnancy or die. And those things, happened basically in that order. I started going from like the fun party girl who's just like out on the weekends in my early 20s to I'm losing jobs. I can't keep a relationship. I'm in jail. I'm not the kind of girl that goes to jail, but yet I'm in jail every other weekend.
Yeah.
And so the not yets just really started piling up. So I had my daughters when I was young, just like the doctor had said. They weren't planned. I was 20, and then I had my second daughter when I was 21 or 22. So I'm a single mom with these 2 little babies, and I'm trying to get my life together. In the 12-step fellowship that I'm in, we talk about it in our big book, and it says, that we take the trip, we don't take the trip. That's essentially what I was doing. I'm going to get this job, it's going to fix me. I'm going to date this guy, it's going to fix me. I'm going to move, it's going to fix me. So I'm trying all these things. I'm going to drink more, I'm going to drink less. I'm going to do this substance, I'm not going to do the substance.
Yes.
And so I had gotten this job that was going to fix me. Spoiler alert, it didn't. What actually ended up happening with that job. And my thinking was accurate. At this time, I'm bartending, I'm selling drugs, I'm just like living this crazy life. I'm like, okay, if I can just get like a 9-to-5, an office job. So I'd met this guy at a bar who's like, you can come work at my office doing real estate appraisals. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be great. This is the solve.
Yes.
And so I started working there, and it was the office job, the 9-to-5. And I didn't drink the first week. And I'm like, told you I didn't have a problem, right? Like if I had a problem, I wouldn't be able to go a week. So we're at lunch, and one of the girls that I work with is, she orders a margarita. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. And she's like, yeah, he doesn't care if we drink. And so it was just off to the races. Yeah. I started, one margarita as an alcoholic turns into two, and then we're just kind of back on this spiral. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I've cracked the code. I'm only going to drink during the day while I'm at work, and then I'll go home and I'll be a good mom and I'll do the homework and I'll make the dinner and I'll do all the things, which probably should have told me that I was an alcoholic.
Only drinking at work.
Only going to drink at work. It's fine. I've got this. So again, like I just didn't understand the nature of my disease. And so I did not understand that once I had one drink, I was not going to be able to stop. Mm-hmm. So this really helped me on my downward spiral.
Yes.
So at the time, my mom had cancer and was just really struggling and really sick, but she knew. She had been married to 2 other alcoholics, and she knew that I was struggling. And she was begging me to get help, begging me to stop, having me do all of these things. She really wasn't in a place physically or mentally or financially to take care of my kids. Mm-hmm. And so, she was just really trying to get me help. And I remember I kept that job somehow for a year. No idea how, but I got fired from the job and was going back to the bar that I used to work at, drinking, talking about how they had done me so wrong.
Yes.
And one day I went and picked my kids up, drunk from daycare again. And I don't remember a lot of that experience, but what I do remember is I got back to my house and my mom and my stepdad were there. And she was like, we're done. We don't know how to help you. We've done what we know to do, but we're not going to let your kids go down with you.
Yeah.
We're going to take your girls, and if you want help, you can call us. But other than that, we don't want to hear from you again. I've told this story probably 1,000 times now, and every time it just makes me so emotional.
Yeah.
So she took the girls. It was this dramatic, scene, and she turned back around to get my car keys so I wouldn't drive. And I remember her saying to me, she was like, Brittany, I don't understand. Do you not love your girls enough to stop? And in that moment, I did a first step. I didn't know it yet, but I knew so clearly that the answer was no. And as a mom, you're a mom, so you can relate to this. I knew I loved my daughters more than anything in the world.
Yes.
And I was going to get drunk again.
Yeah.
And so I ended up detoxing on my couch for about, I don't know, maybe like 5 days, something like that. And I'd been to this therapist that my mom had taken me through her EAP. And she was old school 12-step. And so when we got there, we walk in the door and she's like, I don't know if you have a problem with alcohol or not. If you do, she handed me some treatment center brochure. She's like, you can go to, a 28-day program. She handed me a meeting list. She was like, you can go to a 12-step program. She said, or you can die an alcoholic death. And then she excused us from her office. And I was like, what in the world? I can't believe we're paying for this. Like, not that I was paying for it, but but I remember that, she planted a seed. And so I looked on my phone and the closest meeting that, I drove to the closest meeting that was there. And this story is so impactful for me because it was at the church that my daughters went to daycare at. And when I got to the door, it said the AA meeting had changed. And when I went into the room, it was the room that I'd picked my daughters up drunk from the week before.
Wow.
That was my home group for years. It was never not upstairs ever again. But on the day I decided to go, it was in their exact room.
Oh my gosh, that gives me chills.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know it then, but that was God.
And so that was it? Was that it?
That was it.
That's amazing.
That was it. That was July 7th, 2013. And so far, I haven't needed to go back. I found a sufficient solution that's worked for me. So
when you walked in there, were you like, I belong? This is where I need to be.
Oh my goodness. It was a Saturday morning meeting. It was called the Cookie Group. And
that's cute.
Yeah, all of the old men went to Hardee's beforehand. And when I first walked in, I'm not sure if I felt like I belonged or this is where I need to be. I just knew I was done.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that I was done. And they did a first step meeting for me, and they read out of the doctor's opinion. And I remember this feeling of like, this is what is wrong with me.
Yeah.
Because for so long, my mom was like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I would get this DUI and then I would, get another one or pick my kids up, drunk again or whatever was going on. And she'd be like, what is wrong with you? And it shifted for me where I started saying like, what is wrong with me?
Yes.
Like I remember she would, threaten to take my kids and I was like, over my dead body. And then I shifted to this place where I'm like, somebody needs to take my kids. I can't keep them safe. I want to be a good mom, but I'm drunk again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd shifted into this like, what is wrong with me? And then when I got to that meeting, they described what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
But what I love so much about 12-step recovery is in the book that we use, it tells us what's wrong with us, but then the entire rest of the book is the solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I immediately felt connected. And for whatever reason, I just did what I was told. They gave me a list of phone numbers. I called every single woman on that list. I just thought they were waiting on my phone call.
Right.
I got a sponsor, day one. I just did what I was told. Again, I was just done.
Yes.
Whatever they would have told me to do, I would have done it.
Yeah.
I just never wanted to feel like I was feeling. And I remember there was a man in the meeting who said, if you don't want to feel like this, you never have to feel like this again. So.
And that's so hopeful.
So hopeful.
And I'm so glad you mentioned, all of that, but particularly about like a true surrender and the willingness, because the reality is like the treatment is there to be helpful. But when all this started, there wasn't, all these different places to choose from. And so it shouldn't be this way, but it is very unique to find somebody like you that just walked into a meeting and stayed sober, right?
I don't think I knew any better.
Yeah.
I remember having some friends who were like using all these acronyms. They were like, I'm an IOP, or they were carrying around their, stuffed animal or whatever for their inner child. And I really felt like I was, they had gotten like a head start or something. But again, I just don't think I knew any better. And my family didn't know any better. I do know that it wouldn't have mattered where I went. I would have gotten sober that day.
Yes.
I was done.
Yes.
So had I gone to treatment, I would have gotten sober, like whatever that would have looked like. I am a diehard 12-step girl.
Yes.
But I was just done.
Yeah. And that's when I met you. And immediately you're talking about recovery. And I'm like, I love her. I mean, she really does this thing and just, connecting on that level and so many others. But, and so you dove into recovery and life kind of took off. Did you start working in treatment immediately or
no.
Did you go back to the
bar? No. My sponsor strongly suggested that I find a new career choice. And I was sufficiently afraid of her. And so I found another career choice. But that was really an impactful part of my story because I was just so beaten up.
Right.
I was like, what am I going to do? I'm the single mom. I dropped out of school. I've been bartending. I don't have anything to offer. And my sponsor was the first woman in my life who saw more in me and believed in me and held me to a standard and wouldn't accept anything less. I remember I was applying for jobs, and there's nothing wrong with this, but I was looking for fast food. I was looking at this local factory. I was going to work on a factory line, doing God knows what.
Yeah.
And she was like, absolutely not. You have so much more to offer this world. And she would not accept anything less from me. And that is one of the most impactful things that's ever happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started working in small, medium business sales for a local, company. And I remember being so nervous about it. And when I walked in, there was a guy named Harold. And I can't remember, he had this little, something on his shirt. I can't remember what it was now, but I was like, wait a second. Are you a friend of Bill? And he was like, yeah. And he had like 30 years
Oh my gosh.
clean. And I got this sense of like, there's God again. I'm going to be okay. There's somebody here that gets me.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt so cared for. So I started there and then worked there for about a year, but my goal was to work in recovery. It had changed my life. I couldn't believe that people got to work and do things for recovery. One of my friends was a marketer for a local program, and I was like, that's the dream. And so eventually I started working in treatment, and it's just my love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so amazing and I hear it a fair amount, and my sponsor said it to me many times, like, I care about you more than I care about your feelings.
Yeah.
And your sponsor did that. She's like, no, you have way more to give. And
Yes.
that's just having the accountability and just
Mhm.
having somebody to be able to just say straight up to us, like, hey,
Yes.
you're seeing this wrong.
Yes. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I have been believing my own bullshit
Yeah.
for years. And I think most importantly, and this is what I love so much about sponsorship now, I'm still very active in the 12-step fellowship, but I think as women, we need other women to lift us up and to walk beside us. And she did that, and she's still my sponsor now. I always laugh. She fired me twice, but I told her to sponsor me again for the third time. Hopefully she's not listening to this, but yeah, I mean, she's changed my life.
Yeah.
I really, really needed somebody to just hold me to a higher standard and let me rise to it.
Right.
Believe in me enough to know that I was going to rise to it.
And know you were capable.
Yes.
Yes. I love that.
It was huge.
So when did you realize you were going to change your career path in a sense of taking the risk to start your own business?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I had worked in treatment, doing business development and ops and all the things, and then was working at a company that did digital marketing specifically for treatment. And I loved it. It was great. It checked all of the boxes. And I had a good friend who was in the space that we knew each other, from the industry. And we just started talking about it. And she was like, I know that we can do something and it's going to be amazing. It's going to impact a lot of people. And Ashley is the type of person. And again, it's just like another woman who believed in me. And she's just so positive, and I don't know, she's just incredible. Really impactful recovery story as well. But to be honest, I think I'd just done enough work that I finally was able to trust myself again. And I knew I was at a place where I could bet on myself. I knew that I was going to follow through. I knew that I was going to work hard. I just knew that I could count on myself, which that's all recovery.
Right.
I never had that before because I wasn't dependable. I never did what I said I was going to do. And I'd done that, enough days in a row, enough one days at a time that I had built up this trust in myself.
Yes.
And so I just took a leap. I didn't tell anybody for a long time.
Smart. That's what all the entrepreneurs say, by the way. Like, don't tell anybody your idea. Don't do anything. Just do.
Yeah. So I got lucky. I got to come along with Ashley and Zach and, start and grow this thing. And now we're 3 years in, and we knew it was going to be amazing in the beginning, but we always laugh because we were kind of selling a PDF at that point. But now getting to see the impact that it's having on people in recovery and then the people working in the space has just been amazing. But yeah, I mean, I think it was huge, like finally getting to the place where I know what I'm about and I
Right.
can follow through with it.
Yes. And so starting that, what did the first year look like, and how did you get through that?
As another entrepreneur, I'm sure you
Yes.
can
Yes.
relate
No,
to
and
this.
I know parts of this story, but this is so important for you to share. I believe it is, just because it shows who you are as a person,
Mhm.
your work ethic, just like so strong. I just love it. So
Yeah, so when Ashley and I, first decided, because she was in a career too, I mean, both of us were successful in what we were doing, making good money, again, like checking all of the boxes. And we were so delusional about what the first year would look like. It was really hard.
Mhm.
Um, and again, I kind of came in it with this mindset of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to crush it. Like, it's going to be great. I remember we would talk about like how much we thought we were going to make in the first year. We didn't. So it was just a lot of hard work. And in
Yeah.
the moment, I remember in the moment, that felt a little bit disappointing, almost like, maybe we had made the wrong choice
Mhm.
or what have I done? Which I
Yes.
think is probably pretty common for
Yes.
people who start their own things. But it was very much like a what have I done? But now being on the other side of that, it's exactly what I needed. I needed it to be hard. I needed to really work hard at something because I was the type of person my entire life that I gave 50%. I never gave 110 because if I give my all and it doesn't work, then what does that say about me?
Yeah.
I had so much fear of failure. And so I needed something that I had to work really, really hard at. On the in between with that, because, it was a startup and startup things, I ended up, working a second job and creating another, company out of that floated me through and carried me through. And it just gave me more and more language about myself because my whole time in active addiction, I had all of this language about who I was.
Yeah.
I'm not a good person. I don't follow through. I'm not dependable. And it just gave me so much more language about who I am as a person.
Mhm.
And, it's easy to say on this side of things, but it's definitely,
Yes.
made me a lot stronger.
Yes, for sure.
Mhm.
And that's, a lot of people would just give up. And you
Yes.
found, you worked
Mhm.
harder and you found, another way to make
Mhm.
what you truly believed in happen.
Yes.
And that is something for, starting a business, you got to have a lot of patience.
Mhm. It's not for the faint of heart. I also think too that hitting bottom, we talk about hitting bottom like it's this negative thing, but hitting bottom for me when I first came into recovery, I was at the lowest point of my life. And so I already knew that I could be at the bottom and what I was capable of.
Yes.
So I had this trust and this faith that no matter what happened, I knew that I was going to be able to figure it out. I had a third step that I could work, and I just had this toolbox of like how I could get through it, and just a faith that I wouldn't have had, a faith in myself, a faith in a higher power, and a faith in the toolkit, that
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten, that it was just going to work out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so, and this kind of leads into that, but so how, with even just the last 3 years, for example, with the company, how does your recovery influence the way you approach business? Because sometimes it's hard as far as, like it's a business and we live this way of life and
Yes.
here and there and we want to help people but we got to keep the lights on. And
Yes.
so it's an interesting spot to be in.
I love that question. I'm a big believer that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything.
I love
And
that.
I've been sober for almost 12 years. And so I've had some periods of time where I was sober, I was abstinent, but I wasn't working in any type of program. And I don't like that version of myself.
Mhm.
And so I got to have the experience where I know what it looks like when I will kind of silo my recovery of like, I'm just going to apply it here, but not over here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work out.
No.
So I've tried it a couple of different ways and it just doesn't. And so for me personally, the principles and the steps have to be a part of every aspect of my life
Yes.
in order for me to have peace, and to be able to have, I don't know, just to be able to like lay my head down at night.
Right. For sure. And I mean, I believe it just that I couldn't do anything in my life, probably most things in my life without recovery. But that was kind of something that I didn't understand for a long time because I was in and out, in and out. And it's like, no, this is every area of your life. Like our book says, it'll solve all of our problems.
Yes.
And that made zero sense to me. I'm like, how could this possibly solve my credit card debt or my, boyfriend that just broke up with me and I'm heartbroken? Or like, what are you talking about? How does this have anything to do with that? And that is what my experience has been as well. It's like if I am living on these spiritual principles and continuing to seek this power and engage and participate in recovery, my life is okay. Even though it can be painful and everything, like I am okay and I believe it's going to be okay, which is a big deal.
I think that's huge. I have had, so you know this from being my roomie at On-Site, but I lost my mom in February of 2024. And it was hands down the hardest thing I've ever dealt with in my entire life. Absolutely the hardest thing I dealt with in my recovery. And I have had breakups that I have struggled with more than that when I wasn't working a program. And so having that foundation and, again, these principles and these steps and this community of women and men to be able to support me through that, it definitely wasn't easy and there was really hard days, but I was able to trust the process and walk through it and know that I didn't have to pick up a drink.
Yes.
I didn't have to make anything worse, which I was the queen of before, and that I could just walk through it. And I don't know, I used to think that stuff, I would, listen to like old timers say that and I would roll my eyes. But now I've just learned that if I want to have a happy, peaceful life, and one of the things that's the most important to me is like, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and be proud of myself. When I lost my mom, I know that she died proud of me and I'm proud of me. My daughters are proud of me. And that would have been even anything on my radar 12 years ago. Right. And now it's one of the most important things in my life.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious, what you thought was important prior to getting sober, do you still have those think they're important, or are there other things that are more important? Because I had a total shift.
Yeah, definitely. I think that before, in addition to substances, I also dealt with codependency and all sorts of other things. I think I thought the most important thing probably then was like that the guy likes me or the attention. That's a really interesting question because at the end, I don't know that really anything was important to me anymore. I had hit such a bottom that I didn't even think I cared about anything. I do think it was, some external things before, like the guy, the money, getting the guy that can fix me, that type of thing. But at the end, I just didn't care about anything anymore. And now it's so different because it is like, I want to be proud of myself. I want people to be able to trust me.
Right.
I want you to know that if I tell you I'm doing the podcast, hell or high water, I'm going to get there and I'm going to do the podcast.
Yes. Prove that.
Yeah. So that's just really important to me to be able to have integrity and to be somebody that people could count on.
Yeah.
And to be a mom that my daughters can be proud of and that people trust.
Yes. And it, like you're saying all those things, and that's how I feel as well. And I didn't even think of those things. Yeah. Like that was not a part of the story in my mind. I wasn't worried about like, oh, how can I be trustworthy, or how can I want to be proud of myself. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. It was not even on my radar. I would do things now that I think about, like I wouldn't show up for things, or I would tell you I was going to do something and not do it. And it never occurred to me that might be impacting somebody else.
Right.
I was so selfish and self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing about that in the literature, and I was like, wait a second, I'm not selfish. And then being able to do the steps and the work to realize like that, just how selfish and self-centered I actually was.
Yeah, I know. And another thing you mentioned when you were talking about like rock bottoms and this and that, and then but being dry in sobriety or recovery, whatever, like I think a lot of times people don't talk about this as much, is that people can have rock bottoms in sobriety as well, like being dry or having a, second surrender or all those things. And rock bottom, I feel like I've had multiple, like there's not just one, because there's been these huge moments that should have been the rock bottom, but there's always more. And I just wanted to point out that we can have that in sobriety too.
Absolutely. And what I learned is rock bottom isn't a place, it's a feeling. When I got sober, when my mom came and was getting the girls and I ended up at AA, it was like another random Tuesday. Nothing happened. Like you said, I'd plenty of opportunities to hit rock bottom, but I just kept going down.
Yeah.
But it's a feeling.
Right.
And I hit a bottom in sobriety with multiple years. And I'm glad I didn't drink or use, but I was just as miserable. I was, not showing up the way I want to as a parent, at my job, all of those things that happened to me with drugs and alcohol. There were no drugs and alcohol, but I'm still showing up in that way.
Yes.
And that was really difficult because I had multiple years of recovery and I couldn't blame the drugs or alcohol.
Right.
I remember looking in the mirror and being like, this is like all you. Like, this is you. And again, it was another surrender of what am I going to do? What steps am I going to take to be able to change this? Like, I was just so sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
Yeah.
And thank God that you had the awareness or whatever to get back on the beam versus go drink. I mean, those are the two. That's it goes one way or the other. And so that's.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad when I first came in, they weren't like, hey, so like this is a thing. I think I thought I would stop drinking and then all my problems were going to be solved.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was going to be the first step that would then allow me to be able to solve all of my problems. But yeah, I mean, I definitely hit a bottom and it was just another opportunity to grow.
Right.
We're still, you and I talked about this and we did on-site together. I am an active member of my 12-step fellowship. I've been doing a women's group for going on 2 years. I do therapy. Like, I still have to do all of the things.
Yes. And so sometimes I don't like when people ask me or asking it, but I want to know your answer to it.
Sure.
How do you balance all that with entrepreneurship? Like, you run a business, you're a mom, you're in recovery, you're doing your therapy, we got to have self-care in there. What does that look like?
So I don't try to balance it.
Yeah.
What has to come first is my recovery, therapy, all of the things that I need to do on myself. Sometimes I do, I'm not going to as many meetings because I've been traveling more, those things happen. But I've tried to balance it before. I got some time under my belt and I'm like, okay, I want to be at home with the girls. I need to, I can go down to one meeting a week and it just doesn't work for me. I have to prioritize my recovery because I truly just can't show up the way I want to if I'm not doing those things.
Yes.
So I do think, there's something to be said. I don't need to be at a meeting every single night and missing dinner with my girls or blowing off my job responsibilities because I have a meeting.
Yes.
I think there is balance to be said for that, but I have to prioritize that or I just can't show up the way I want to.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that is so, so important. And especially as women, especially as mothers.
Yes.
We want to give everything to our children. And if we're not careful, we will give everything and all in ourselves and our souls to them and not fill ourselves up.
Yes.
And there's been times that I had to get, we had to get a babysitter to go to a meeting.
Yeah.
And I did not want to do that. I'm like, I don't want to pay for a babysitter to go to a meeting. I want to go on a date or I want to have.
Yeah, do something fun.
And you're right. But it was so needed. Like
Yes.
and just like you said, it's not like I'm missing dinner every night,
Yes.
but there has to be a little bit of sacrifice so that I can be the mom that I want to be. Like I am
Yeah.
okay with that. I'm okay with getting a babysitter every now and then to go to a meeting if I have to or need to or
Yes.
whatever. And even though it doesn't feel good, but I still do it, and I still have that willingness, which I'm so grateful for, to have the willingness to continue to participate. Because when that goes away, that's a scary place to be.
Yeah, and I have the benefit of seeing what that looked like for myself, and so I don't want to do that again.
Yes.
I've learned from that mistake, but I mean, I was fortunate when I got sober. We had a meeting that I could put kind of the girls in the room and with their iPads. But a couple of years ago, I started a women's meeting that had childcare because it is so hard. I mean, I do think that there's, things that women deal with that do make it hard to get sober. So, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to start what you need.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So why do you find it so important to continuing sponsoring women?
I find it important to continue sponsoring women because that's what was done for me. I'm so glad that my sponsor wasn't like, you know what, I've got 35 years. I'm just going to tell her no.
Right.
I think I'm just, like I said, I'm diehard 12-step.
Yeah.
And so I know that that's part of how I stay sober myself. I believe in service. I want to give back the way that I was given to. Like I mentioned earlier, it changed my entire life. It literally changed my entire life. I would not be sitting here without my sponsor. And so to be able to be that for somebody else is huge.
Yes.
So I think, again, it's just part of, a 12-step program to be of service, but it's selfish and self-serving too.
Yeah, right.
I love seeing women come in. I really like sponsoring women with a little bit more time who are maybe just kind of stuck and helping them exactly the way it was done for me to believe in themselves. I like to put a magnifying glass on other women and just magnify what's already there and get to walk with them while they're getting to see that for themselves.
Aw, I love that.
It really is. Our literature says it's the bright spot in our lives, and I couldn't agree with that more.
I know. I agree. It's like, if you would have asked me that prior to, what are you talking about, the bright spot in my life? Talking to other alcoholics? What do you mean? That sounds awful.
I know. I'm listening to myself. And I remember like in the beginning being like, oh my gosh, like get a grip. That's so cheesy. Like you really don't feel that way. And then now I'm like, it is. All of this is an honor and a privilege, and getting to be here and getting to show up and getting to serve the fellowship that saved my life.
Right.
Not only saved my life, but gave me a life. Like I'm very aware that all of this is because I learned how to show up through a 12-step program. Like everything I have is a direct result of that.
Yeah. And so speaking of everything you have, share a little bit about Encyrcle and what it is and what y'all do.
Yeah, so Encyrcle is a text-based software that uses automation, AI, sentiment analysis, a lot of cool tech stuff to help treatment programs stay connected with people when they leave. It's a really difficult thing. We all know that we need to do it, but it's hard. And innately, if you have an alumni coordinator at your program and they're doing their job well, they're busy. They're talking to moms and somebody who needs them or whatever. So we created this software that helps programs. It's all text-based. And then we're helping the treatment centers stay connected. We're doing Joint Commission and CARF surveys. We have really cool AI sentiment analysis to help alumni coordinators or programs understand which clients are at risk. We built our own AI for suicidal ideation, which is really cool. We had somebody on our team who was a suicide survivor. And so she was able to help us build that, which is really special.
Wow.
And then we took some of the experience from me losing my mom at 10 years and needing additional support. Like I said earlier, like putting the drinks or drugs down just allows you to do the rest of the work.
Yes.
And so we have a lot of really amazing people on our team who have helped us build this. And now we're in year 3. And I actually was just at one of our programs residential. It's their resin detox program. And I got to talk to some clients who utilized our software to be able to quickly get back into care. And it was just really, really special to see.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, I mean, I think that's really all I wanted to mention. Is there anything you want to add, share?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. It's so special for me, like after getting to spend time at on-site and seeing other women who are in the field, who are doing their own work and continuing to do that. It was just really impactful for me. So I'm just so glad that we got the opportunity to do it.
I know. And it's so funny because like we're at on-site, you're not supposed to talk about what you do. So everybody like listened and we didn't talk about what we did until the end. And so it was really neat to be able to get to know each other and not talk about work.
Yes. Well, I was so impressed by you personally. And then to get to hear what you've done as a mom and as a woman in recovery, I don't know. I always just like, I don't know. I'm kind of always just like attracted to like other strong women who are doing their thing, but I think we have to see it to be it. And I really believe that like you are who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
So that's something that's really important for me in my recovery is I want to be around other badass women.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you. That's really sweet. Well, thank you again for literally making the long trip. I'm so sorry, but I'm so glad we were able to do it. It means a lot.
Yeah, it means a lot to me too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I hope today's conversation has inspired you, opened your mind, hopefully your heart. But remember, you're not alone. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll have all the links below to our social. And I'll have Brittany's links below as well so you can find her. And yes, until next time, keep making an impact. Bye, y'all.